Avi here, and today we have a new episode in the art review series. And today we'll be checking out the work of AU or at Delete. Interesting handle name, but I'll link all of the links in the description below. I first found this artist's work through Twitter. I believe it was this piece. It just caught my eye. The red background plus obviously the character pose, the vibe, the attitude of it. And obviously the painting style is very raw. And whenever I see artworks like this, it just pulls me in because it feels more pure. Or it feels more, I relate to it a bit more because it's not super rendered or it's not super clean. It doesn't feel 3D in any way. I mean, yes, there's some form language there or form signs, or it just feels more, it feels sculpted, sure, but it's not super, it's not like a splash art. It's just an art piece that says what it needs to say. What the fuck am I trying to say, bro? It just looks cool as fuck. And I don't know, with this artist, like the way the eyes are done, there's always this moody expression to it. I think a lot of the expression of the character is carried by the eyes. Usually, yes, there is some kind of facial expression, no shit, and yes, the body pose can help, but the eyes, I think, especially for this artist, is what pulls me in the most, and it has way more, like, you can tell by how detailed it is compared to other facial features. It's meant to say something, I think. And in this case, and again, the painting style is very sketchy, very impressionistic. It's kind of my style or kind of my vibe, which I do like. It's very pure, and I like how the initial line sketches are left in, and it just feels more raw that way and more, again, pure, which I do like. And yes, I think there is a not basic, but I think the essential process here is you start out with the grayscale sketch, and then you pretty much figure everything out at this stage, and then everything else is just adding colors, maybe gradient maps or layer effects, layer modes, or whatever the case is. Some photo textures maybe, who knows. But the point is, a lot of the work is done in the beginning, which I guess it helps you not be as pressured, because you can always do things or work on your illustrations phase by phase. And it's a pretty common way to do things, or a pretty accepted way to do things in grayscale first, because you can always work on adding your colors later. And colors are something you can change pretty quickly, unlike values. I mean, values you do have to paint over certain things, but you can use, for when it comes to color, you can use a lot of gradient maps, layer modes, layer effects. So it's pretty easy. I guess it's way easier to color something than to render something in grayscale. So I kind of get why people or experienced artists recommend you to do the grayscale first before adding the color. But yeah, the basic process is there, so yeah. And for this piece, it did have a lot of likes, which is pretty cool. It's just a sketch, but it feels, again, it's with the eyes, I think. I like the rawness of the sketch all in all, but the eyes, it has that, even if it's not a full face, it's half of a face. It's the eyes that I think it carries the whole expression of the face. The half smile helps, but it's the eyes for me. It always says something. Same thing here. First of all, again, the painting style, I like it. I love how the line work, the rough line work is still there. And even the way it's painted, it's pretty raw, pretty impressionistic, definitely my vibe. But again, it's those eyes. It has a bit more detail than, say, the nose, the mouth. And it's the lashes. I do think this artist spends a bit more time with the lashes, so that's cool. Again, it does have, all in all, a very impressionistic, raw feeling to it. And a lot of the artworks are in this style, which I do like. I mean, yes, you can go further and render things out a bit more, but yeah, if you're interested in a more raw, I guess, impressionistic-ish, sketchy style, I do recommend this at Delete or AU guy or chick, this artist. I think I'm going to make this a cover photo because I think there's a bit of an RGB shift used in the end. But again, it's not exactly the cleanest of things, but it's still worth being some kind of wallpaper for me, because it still has that vibe. And I love, again, it's the eyes, the way the lashes are, the eyelashes are done. It's still pretty sketchy, and the line work isn't that clean. It's a bit rough, but it's compensated by some basic rendering, some form indication with the shading and all. And I love the jacket. Everything else is pretty chaotic in the background, or the further you go away from the face and the hands, it's pretty chaotic. So I'm not exactly sure. Maybe this guy has some kind of power. He looks somewhat, or she, I think he looks somewhat demonic, vampire-ish. I love the accent color, red, very alluring, very passionate. It's a very passionate color. And yes, it's very impressionistic, which I do like. It's not meant to be super splashy or to me this looks finished, and I do like it because oftentimes when you see paintings like this, it's not really considered finished because it's not fully rendered. I guess there are certain standards for different fields. It reminds me of the work of, say, Ahmed Aldoori. A lot of people maybe won't consider his work finished because his work has that impressionistic vibe. But for me, I consider a lot of his paintings pretty much finished. Like, it doesn't have to be more. Like, a lot of his, like, it works for him. It works for his style, and I think that's enough. But again, it's more of a personal, subjective standard, and I would put AU at Delete in the same category where the impressionistic is enough. It's more than enough. Now this one is a bit more rendered because you can tell by the fabrics, and you can it's I think it's good to have reference photos on the side because you can tell the fabric here is somewhat silky, and you can tell by the way it was rendered. So I think having reference photos help for you to understand what makes something silky look silky. Same thing for the fur. Maybe, I'm not sure, was there photo bashing here? Or maybe was it just a bunch, or maybe I think it's just a bunch of brushwork. But yeah, I do like how the fabric is way more detailed. It's pretty intense actually, but it's well blended. It's not super smooth, but if you zoom out, it's pretty, wow, I like it. Again with the eyelashes, very pretty eyes. Reminds me of Gojo-san. I believe his name is Gojo-san from Jujutsu Kaisen with the blue eyes and the pretty lashes and all. The hair is pretty cool too. Now for this case, or in this art piece, it's harder to see. It's a bit more finished. Now this piece, it's less impressionistic and it's way more, I guess, rendered. Although it still has that vibe because, say, for the background, you can see a bunch of splash. Not splash, but it's not smooth. It feels very mixed media-ish. Although because of the way the fabrics were done, it's pretty tight. So there's way more detail than normal. But, I still like it. It still has that vibe. And you could tell by the style of the face and definitely the eyes that it's this artist's work. Oh, I love, this could also be the cover for the art review. I love the thumb here. The way the skin folds were done. You definitely need some reference for this to look somewhat realistic. And it's so realistic and it's so dynamic. It almost looks like a keyframe of an anime shot. Again, the lashes are very well done. It's more of a keyframe, like it's an actual keyframe for some kind of storyline. I do like how the nail was done here, very realistic. And even if the hand is well rendered, the focus is still on the eye somehow. I think it's because this part right here is somewhat blurred. I think the hand is on its own layer, because you can tell by the feathers here, it's not blurred. So it's specific to this part of the finger. So you do need a bit of planning, I guess, with this kind of image. But great framing of the eye. Everything is blue. That's the main color here. I love the crown. Reminds me of Evangelion. These sorts of cross thingies. Because there's a lot of like Christian influence there in the Evangelion. The whole angel and demon, or I think not demon, but the whole angel thing is pretty common. So maybe there's a bit of that concept here happening as well. Although I do see a lot of feathers and a lot of fairy insect wings. So there's some kind of mystical element happening here. But I love the hand. I mean, the eyes are great. Almost always the eyes, the hair is almost always well done. But I do like how the hand was rendered here. Because usually in a lot of anime-ish style art, you don't really render the forms this much. You keep it somewhat flat, a bit of rendering to indicate, to suggest that it's somewhat of a form, but you can go a bit further. You have to be careful though, because sometimes the arms and legs can look very rendered, but the face is pretty much flat. So you do need to find that right balance. And I do think this artist, AU Delete, can balance both in a healthy way. Or nothing is conflicting that much. So I think, yeah, I like it. You know, you could still see the rawness in the work. The line work is pretty much hard to see at this point, but it's still there. You can still see it. And I like how things are blended. It's not always that clean, but I think there is that human element to it. I think that's why it's so attractive, because it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be raw and just fucking, again, with the eyes, the lashes, very pretty eyes. And yeah, I do see a lot of blur being used in his work as well, or her work, who knows. The reds are pretty interesting. Even in the shadow, there's a bit of red. Well blended. I do like it. And again, this to me seems like it's enough. It's powerful enough for me. So, yeah. Oh, again with the blur, with the background, it's hitting the hat too, the top part of the hat in the background. Maybe there's a bit of that RGB shift you can tell in the edges of the hat. The reds and the blues and maybe the greens. Again, the face is well. It's a bit more realistic, I guess, because of the way it's rendered, the lighting and all. It's harder to see the line work. It's a bit more painted. You can still see some of it in the edges, but it's mostly painted. Oh, I like how the fur helps with the framing of the face. Same thing with the hat. Like it's part of the negative space of the frame. So it's not just an empty space, it's an actual fur coat. And it helps frame the face. So that's cool. Doing the hair in this kind of style is... Hair in general is pretty hard to do, but fuck, it looks nice. Looks hot too. Oh, I think there's a bit of noise added as well. So there's that. So yeah. Lots of blurs though. Those eyes look so pretty too. Fuck. This one's one of the... It's an older piece, but it still has that same vibe. You can tell by the eyes. The rendering of, say, the coat, it's a bit more contained. It's not as painterly, but it's still there. You can still tell, definitely by the style of the face, the eyes. I think the eyes are the biggest giveaway. They're usually big. The lashes are very prominent. And yeah. And the mouth. The fangs are always there, very aggressive looking. and kind of cute too. Very gothy. Is it gothy? Wait, this one has a gun and it has like a mic or a headset. So this could be some kind of assassin, who knows. Anyway, that's it for this art review of AU Delete. I'll link the Twitter page, the Pixiv page, the Instagram page, and I believe there's also a Tumblr page, so no worries. And yeah, if you're the impressionistic kind of person, and maybe if you want to go further with your detailing, because this artist can go further with say the fabrics and such, and can render the face a bit more. It's pretty possible. And if you want some references, I do recommend this artist. And again, if you're going for that anime-ish look, which I am interested in as well, I would highly recommend you to check out AU Delete. And yes, if you're very sketchy as well, and you want to balance that sketchiness with a bit of rendering, yeah, just check out this artist. So wait, I think I missed a piece. Oh, here's yeah. So this one feels more graphical in nature. It feels more like the style is somewhat different. The proportions are definitely, it's still there, but I think the way it's rendered or illustrated is a bit different. It's somewhat cleaner but more graphical. It feels like an editorial illustration or some kind of book cover maybe. I do like it. Maybe the rake brush was used a lot here, but yeah. So that's it for this art review. I'll see you in the next episode.